Hi, friends, and welcome to Only Green. A nature lover, wildlife photographer, and a technologist based out of UAE, Akhil Vinayak Menon is our guest for the day. He believes that through his photographs, people can be made aware of the creatures that dwell along with us on this earth and thus can be the key to conservation and coexisting. He has traveled to various locations for his photography passion and has clicked some extraordinary images of wildlife. Let's hear from Akhil on his journey as a wildlife photographer. He has won a lot of awards and recognitions, which we'll talk about during our conversation. Welcome, Akhil, to Only Green.
Thank you so much, Ebi. It's my pleasure to be here and to be welcomed by you and for on the Fully Green channel. Look forward to speaking with you.
Okay, to start with, how did you get initiated into this passion of birding and bird photography or wildlife photography as a whole?
Right. So I would say that it kind of started off in the childhood. I was very much a techie kind of kid, liked to play with a lot of gadgets, and I happened to have access to a lot of them as well. Dad had a camera which was like a film point and shoot camera. So used to experiment with that, used to take pictures with it. Of course, at that point in time, it was not wildlife photography as such, and you were limited in terms of what sort of lens you had with the built-in point and shoot camera that we had. So it was just regular pictures. So I would take landscapes and all that stuff. And eventually, what happened is I enjoyed traveling as well. So somehow, I think at some juncture, I felt that both of the love for tech and the interest in wildlife sort of came together, and then wildlife photography just started. I would think that this is around the time that I was working in IT. I just started off with IT, and I was working in Hyderabad, and obviously, working in IT means you're sitting in front of the computer for quite a long period of time. So you need some sort of way to discharge that sort of, space, and you need to go out and do something. So I ended up picking up the hobby of walking around the parks and all that. And then I started noticing owls and birds in the parks in Hyderabad. So I needed to sort of take a record of it. I started meeting with people who were already doing photography. So there were these photography groups that I was a part of. And I realized that, they were doing many things. They were doing landscape, they were doing portraits, they were doing cityscapes, streets. I went with them for all of these. But then when we did this nature walk photo session, that's when it kind of felt that, I was in the right place. And after that, there was no looking back. It was just slowly picking up gear over time, spending more money, and then slowly upgrading it. And then eventually I got to a place where, I'm literally taking wildlife photography. So day in, day out, and I travel for it as well. So that's the gist of how it all started.
In your website, you have given a detailed description of the do's and don'ts of wildlife photography.
Right.
And that's come out from your experience. I can see that it's come out from a lot of experience, a lot of wildlife expeditions. I mean, can you throw some light on these points, the ethics of wildlife photography?
Sure, of course. So when it comes to ethics and all that, the whole thing is I've learned this from scratch, and I've been doing this for almost 10 years. So over a period of 10 years, I've learned what is ideal things to do and what is not so ideal to do, because you learn from experiences. You read about all the things that different photographers are doing and not doing correctly, and then you sort of create a bunch of do's and don'ts that it is ideal to sort of pursue. And it kind of helps when I share that, because there's a lot of people getting into this whole wildlife photography. And in fact, lately, in the past 2-3 years, I think there is an explosion of wildlife photographers, mostly from IT background, from doctors to all sorts of professions. So people are definitely looking to photography as one of the ways to sort of they spend their time. So I think this is where the do's and don'ts can sort of help them out. So this is why I make small blogs and writings, and even on my Instagram and stuff, I actually share about climate change and things that basically I kind of feel for. So this is basically why there's do's and don'ts. Now, in terms of do's and don'ts, some of the basic things that you can do is, regardless of the type of photography, one thing that you have to do is you need to make sure that your subject is always comfortable. So maintaining a safe distance and keeping your subject in comfort allows you to sort of capture the subject in a place where it's actually behaving on its own. Now, what I mean by that is, natural behavior is what we are trying to capture. It's all about, the how the animals interact with their surroundings, how the animals interact with each other, and how they, form a part of this whole universe. So this is what we are trying to capture. This is what we're trying to show, and this is the thing that will connect with people as well. So this is the part that's important. You need to make sure that your subject is comfortable. With population going so high and lots of people doing wildlife photography, what happens is it becomes in some way a business. And if over my experience, like past 10 years, I've noticed that places that I used to go a lot to, like frequently go to. It used to be maybe me and maybe a couple of people. Now it's changed into like a group of people, and there's photo walks and all sorts. I'm not saying that's all bad, but it's good for the fact that people are all getting out there and they're trying to see earth and nature around them and take pictures of it. But this is where things get a little tricky. So maintaining safe distance, not coercing your subjects in terms of getting the pictures. Don't action shots are very exciting. They look amazing on this thing on the pictures and stuff, but then when it comes to taking action shots, it's not so ideal to sort of disturb the creature and then get the shot. You need to wait for it. That patience is a big deal. You have to spend that time and take it. So people try to speed that up and then they go the wrong way. That's another thing. Then when it comes to sharing location, so I happen to see some bird, and that bird is frequently visiting that spot. If I end up sharing that location, there's nothing wrong about it. It's just that the audience that it's shared to, they need to also sort of respect the same sort of boundaries I had. So if they sort of don't respect that, then essentially what happens is that subject is disturbed, and when I go back there, I'll miss the shot next time. So yeah, that part is there. So that is another thing that you have to take care of. And then I already mentioned this before, the natural behavior, that is the most important one. So you don't want a shot where the bird is alarmed. You don't want a shot where the animal is panicking and running away from you. You want them to sort of exhibit their natural behavior, and that's the shot that we are totally after. One final thing I have to mention is transparency. So when it comes to taking pictures and sharing on the internet, it is quite important that you mention where you took, like how you took the picture. What I mean by that is, if generally speaking, wildlife photography, if you define wildlife photography, it's taking pictures of wild animals in their natural environment. So the moment you change the natural environment, you're taking a picture of, say, for example, a zoo animal, or if you're taking a picture of a pet animal. What I mean by pet animal is there are people who actually keep wild animals at home. They feed them and then basically take them out so that people can take pictures of it. If those things are being done, which is happening, of course, but if those things are being done, people are taking pictures of those animals, it should be stated that this is actually taken in such a way. That transparency element brings in a little more trust. Taking a picture in the zoo and then claiming it to be wildlife shot, that is also not an appropriate sort of behavior when it comes to wildlife photography. So this is why I said wildlife photography ethics can be a little tricky. People try to get away with things, and it's ideal to behave safe, healthy wildlife photography practices. So that's what I'd like to say.
It's like being very evident that you need to respect the
Yes.
other beings also. I mean, I've been seeing
Yes.
a lot of campaign in the Instagram for the last few days. Don't click our nest. A bird is saying, "Don't click our nest."
Right.
Why is that so? I've
Okay.
been seeing.
So when it comes to breeding time, when it comes to nesting time, these are very as far as birds are concerned, it's a very important time in their life. And if you happen to go there and you try and intrude into their space, there's a good likelihood that, like, the parents may abandon the nest, or the parents may get alarmed. And there's also a possibility that you may be getting in the way of their natural process of having kids and all that. So if that happens, then you're basically getting in the way of the natural process. That is again inhibiting the natural flow of wildlife. So this is why these things are also recommended not to be done. I have seen a lot of nesting pictures. I've seen these nesting pictures win awards also. But if these are practiced in a safe manner, now I cannot explain how safe would be. It would be all dependent on the comfort of the subject. So as I said, comfort of the subject is the most important. I mean, if you happen to be in a hide, and if you happen to be completely, not so obvious to the wild, to the wildlife or the bird, the animal, whatever you're that taking pictures of, then you are in a good place. Then you can get your shots. However, when a bunch of people converge into a nesting spot, for example, like an owl nesting spot, as you know, some owls are nocturnal. During the day, they just spend roosting inside a tree. It's not ideal to sort of converge in the middle of daylight and try and get pictures of it when the bird will get definitely alarmed. So this is why it's important to understand your subject and then pursue the photography. So it's not just about getting the picture, it's about understanding how your subject is, where they are, how they are, what ticks them, what doesn't tick with them. So, and then based on that, doing your photography. And that gives you the best results also. So that's what I'd say.
Okay, now coming to your birding or wildlife trips, you made a
Yeah,
recent trip to Colombia.
right.
Can you give us some experiences from that trip?
Okay, yeah. So, just as I mentioned in the beginning, traveling for wildlife is, it's such a eye-opening experience. It's just something that I'm really passionate about. Being able to go to other places, being able to see different types of birds and wildlife and the flowers, the culture, the food. I don't think a lot of people realize this, but they are all missing out on a lot of amazing experiences when it comes to traveling. Now, Colombia is just one of the places I'd like to go. There are quite a few places all around the world that I like traveling. Now, South America has been the recent, I can probably say I've been bitten by the South America bug. The last trip was to Costa Rica. Now, Colombia is done. Now, already while I was in Colombia, I'm planning a trip to maybe Peru or Brazil. Because, I mean, considering the fact that I am in Dubai, it's not very close. Of course, it's a little closer than, of course, being traveling from India. But then it's not that close, and the travel is also quite expensive. So if you happen to get a good group of friends, and if you happen to travel with the same sort of purpose, then those trips can be really fruitful and you can really enjoy it. And Colombia, so to speak, is probably by far the best country I've been in South America. Like Costa Rica is incredible. Colombia is also amazing, and the people are so warm. The culture is so nice. The food is. I mean, I would say that a lot of common food elements that we get back in Kerala and India is what you get in Colombia as well. It's just that their preparation and their styles are different. So the food is interesting to try, and of course, there's the element of hiking. There's the element of looking for birds. There's the element of expecting certain birds in your hit list to sort of show up, and then getting those pictures. It's just such a thrilling experience. And the forests are pristine, very green, lush. And when you go there, you realize how much of forest we've lost. Being in such a growing country like India, there's quite a few people coming. There's a lot of development happening. We don't realize this, but slowly the nature and the greenery is eroding away. The good thing about Colombia and Costa Rica is that they take extra effort. They realize that tourism is important, so they have taken extra measures to sort of ensure that there is more forests around and greeneries around. All the lodges are sort of constructed very. They use resources that's available nearby. It's all earthy sort of construction, which goes with the nature. So that way, I think they're doing a good job. And because these places are there, we're still able to go and enjoy the nature as much as we can. So yeah.
Interesting. I mean, you mentioned that you travel with a group of friends who have the same kind of interest, passion. I mean,
Right.
normally on your wildlife trips, I mean, you prefer to travel alone or in a group?
So, see, when it comes to wildlife photography, especially when you do South America trips and stuff, the trips can be quite expensive. If I do an individual trip, the cost would be quite high because I have to pay the guide in total, and then I have to pay the lodges for accommodation, which is mine alone. Uh, I'm not saying it's not doable; it's definitely doable. But if you have a bunch of friends, then you have time to sort of chit chat and have fun. You talk about the birds with each other, and then you try and figure out what we are going to do the next day, and then people can ideate, and then we could probably form a strategy that works out better for the whole trip. So that way I always feel that going in a group is nice. And whenever we go to such places, it's nearly impossible for us to actually know where the birds are. So of course, having a good guide really helps you to sort of get those pictures, get to the right places and get those shots. Now, if you are in Dubai, like I am, I've been here for about 9, 10 years. So I know the space, and every weekend I'm out there in the desert looking for wildlife. So I'm more familiar with the place, and it's easier for me to sort of help somebody coming from outside to sort of get to the bird or to the wildlife or the picture that I'm after. So guides are important. So going in a group, regardless, would be a much more easier sort of thing to do. Now, of course, when the group gets big, that's another challenge as well, because you will be in places where there's limited space. Hides are usually small, and if it's 4 people, it's healthy. If it's 6 people, it's healthy. Anywhere above 8, I feel it's a big crowd. It will be very difficult to sort of, and there can be a lot of confusion as well. So the good number is 4 to 6. That's ideal. But then see, all of us have different lives, and we are pursuing different passions and professions. Now, getting those 4 people to come at the same time to plan their trip and holidays at the same time is the challenge. So having the like-minded group to come along would be the ideal thing. But these are the challenges that we face when we put the trip together. So usually for me with wildlife photography, I kind of plan advance. So I'm already thinking next year. So I'm thinking February.
These
I'm
are people that
going.
you regularly travel with, or I mean, it
Yeah.
changes?
So sometimes it changes. There are some people who you really gel well with, and then regardless of when it is and how it is, we try and make time for each other to travel at the same time. So those are people that are amazing to travel with. If you're not always lucky, then you end up going with some people you are less familiar with, but then they become friends over time. So this is how it usually works out. The Costa Rica trip and the Colombia trip, I was in the company of Janie. Janie was there, which is the common person who was traveling with me. And then, of course, for the Colombia trip, I met Suraj, and there was also another gentleman, Dave. I've not met them, but I knew them through social media. We've been in touch. We've discussed at length in terms of birds and all that. So it almost felt like family. When I got there, I was already in my comfort zone. There's wildlife and birds all around me, and these great people around, and then we can adjust with each other, travel and take the picture. So it was incredible. Colombia is definitely compared to Costa Rica, the birding and the tourism and the wildlife photography scene is still developing, but the place is so lush and nice. There's less things preset for you. So you go there are some unpredictable things that happen, and then you take those pictures and you feel even more happier. So that way, Colombia was much more fun.
Hey, sounds very interesting. Your energy, your passion, I can very clearly see in the way you talk about it. I mean, in the recent Expo 2020 in Dubai, you won the UAE Global Village competition for your image, One Flag, One Heart. Can you tell us more about that picture?
Yes. So this is one of those, one of the things as wildlife photographer that you try and do is you try and take those pictures that get some sort of recognition. So the reason why you're after recognition is so that, the picture reaches more people, and you sort of build your audience as well. So that, when I make a trip to Colombia, at least I know that, my efforts are not going in vain. I get those pictures, I bring it back, more people are seeing it. And the more the people see it, that's better for me. So, but with the Global Village competition, I just have to say I'm really proud and happy that I won the competition. But the honest fact is that it was by luck. The competition was mostly relating to UAE Independence Day, and the theme was that. And then people were supposed to go to Global Village, which is the location. And Global Village is, of course, a tourist spot where people from all over the world, they come, and then they shop different things, and they eat food from different countries and stuff like that. It's an amazing place, an amazing venue. And the theme was to try and capture an image which basically conveyed the independence, the fact that Dubai is like a melting pot of all the cultures. So, it so happened that I was there on the Independence Day with my wife and the little one. It was actually my wife who was taking pictures with her camera. And then she was asking me, why don't you take some pictures also? So I ended up taking the camera, and I walked off to a place where there was this stage where they were showing the flag, the UAE flag, and there were the ladies holding the UAE flag and walking around. And then I was taking the picture with the people, and the audience was very unlike of what I usually do. So it was more of a wide shot, and then I'd taken that picture. And she was very particular that I enter the picture to that competition. So I entered the picture into that competition, and I got the second prize. So to be honest, I mean, I owe it to her for making me participate in that competition. It's the first time I've ever participated in a non-wildlife kind of competition, and then I happened to get an award right away. It's usually apply for these wildlife contests and miss those. I mean, I probably make shortlist and then I don't win anything. This time around, I won the second prize, so it was amazing. So it was a great experience.
Now we'll talk about a wildlife recognition that you got. Your image titled Mother's Love was selected as one of the finalists for the great Masai Mara Photographer of the Year competition.
Right.
Can you throw some light on that particular picture?
Sure. So usually what happens is, I make a trip, and then that trip is usually current in my head, and then I'll be working on pictures from that trip. I had just made that Kenya trip, and I'd come back, and then it so happened that I saw this competition, the Greatest Masai Mara Photographer of the Year award competition. And the way the format is that you have to submit pictures for each month, and then 3 pictures get selected. And then finally, what they do is they pick the winner from the full group. So in my case, what happened is there's a couple of pictures that I'd taken from Kenya, which are very close to me, because when you go to Kenya, of course you get the pictures of birds, but then Kenya also gives you access to a lot of cats, and it gives you access to other wildlife like elephants, hippos, giraffes, and all that. And Kenya is one place that's very addictive. The moment you get on a safari vehicle, it's you drive through the place, and there's wildlife happening everywhere. Starting from the morning, we usually do a full day safari. So I generally don't come back for lunch. I just pack my lunch, and then I try and spend the whole day in the wilderness. It gets a little hot in the afternoon, but in the shade of the vehicle, in the shade of the beautiful trees, it's amazing. You just park and you just enjoy the place. And it so happened that we were looking at taking pictures of this cheetah called Silugi. She's very famous. So she had just had a litter, and so we were looking for her. And then when it comes to Kenya as well, just like as I said, you need a guide. The same goes for a driver. So you need to have a good driver who knows the place, and who's I would say that some of those drivers are actually good photographers themselves, because they know exactly where the good angle is, the good light is. So going with a good driver definitely makes a big difference when it comes to Masai Mara, because you're limited as far as your physical movement is concerned. You are going to sit in the vehicle, and the vehicle, wherever it goes, that's where you get the pictures. So when it comes to these drivers, they are experts. So this driver of mine, his name is Tony. He happened to figure out where the cheetahs are. And we had off-road permits, because of which we could go off-road and then pursue whatever wildlife that we needed to. And we drove to the cheetah, and then the cheetah was actually taking care of the cubs. And she happened to be licking the cubs. And this image was actually captured in that moment. Now, when it comes to photography, like as you progress in your career, what happens is you realize that first, it's all about trying to find wildlife. The second is, you try and take a good picture of that wildlife that you run into. The third is you try and get close, try and get a good portrait, like a nice, clean, detailed image. Then what you look for is sort of action shots, like, maybe the cheetah is running or something like that, or the bird flying, that sort of thing. And then eventually what happened with me is, I am at a place, in a juncture where I'm now trying to get images. I do take all of these pictures. I'm not saying that I don't take these kind of pictures, but I'm at a place where I'm seeking moments where there is interaction. So if there's interaction between a mother and a child, if it's interaction between the prey and the hunter, if there's interaction between two birds or anything, any sort of interaction is always interesting. I try to capture a moment that kind of resonates with human emotion. So, like for example, the cheetah mother is licking the cub is sort of like how my mother would sort of maybe embrace me when I'm a child. So the same thing was being seen, and that was what I was trying to capture. And I think that worked for that image. In fact, that image was not only selected in the competition as one of the finalists, it actually went quite a bit. They actually took it for a print as well. So it is available as a print through their print studio. And there was another image of mine as well, which was submitted on a subsequent month that was selected as well. It didn't make it to the finals, but it was one of the viewers' choice selections. So these kind of things happened, and most of these pictures with interaction is what I'm after. So interaction would definitely portray some sort of story, and story is what makes things interesting. You try and imagine what was the emotion that was going through the cheetah and the cub. In fact, if you, I'm thinking the picture is being shown while we speak of this. So if you look at the cub, you can also see, the cub is looking into a distance, aimlessly, and there's this gleam of light. We call it catch light. So the catch light's on the eye. And you can see that the little one is enjoying the mother's, love and affection. So this is what makes that picture special for me as well.
Okay, coming to the final one. I mean, it's a combination of a lot of things. I mean, when I introduced you, I read out that your photographs you want to convey, or rather make people aware of the conservation and the importance of coexistence.
Right.
What exactly is it that you're trying to convey through your photographs? Point number one.
Right.
Second is, I mean, you also mentioned about a lot of new wildlife enthusiasts coming in, photographers coming in. What
Correct.
will be your message to them? I mean, you mentioned about ethics part of it. That's on one side. I'm not talking about the gears also. I'm talking about somebody who's interested and who's coming in. What will be your message for them?
Sure. Yeah. So answering the first part of your question, see, at the end of the day, there must be some purpose to your photography. Otherwise, you probably would run out of interest over a period of time, and then you'd probably not pursue it as much. Now, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to wildlife photography, I've noticed that all the wildlife photographers I've looked up to, there's been only one main purpose for them. The fact that they're trying to highlight that, we are on a planet which is depleting nature. And, there's climate change, and there's other factors like, urbanization, development, and all that, which is actually counterproductive to how things should actually flow as far as nature is concerned. Now, with population, there comes a requirement of feeding so many people. There's a lot of conversion of forest land into farmlands and this and that, and all this contributes to the fact that we are kind of losing our earth. So wildlife photography, it's come to a place where we are trying to sort of show people who are not able to travel to all these exotic places what is out there and what we need to protect. And this is basically the message we are trying to do with wildlife photography. Now, a lot of people are on social media. Of course, I mean, I'm in social media as well. I'm also a victim of it. But the fact is, irrespective of how many pictures you take and how many pictures you click, it should be always in the back of your head that you're taking it for a purpose, and your purpose is to sort of convey that beauty of nature to everyone, so that the people who are not able to do it, they're able to see it. In some measure, they are sort of pushed to doing something better for the earth. This is, of course, it's not that effective. In a very bigger picture, broader picture, I would say that these pictures may contribute in some extent, but big actions need to be taken. And this is one of the reasons why I sort of use my social media platform to sort of talk about climate change and talk about the impact of climate change. And I try and source information from different portals. There's also a website called earth.org. I'm one of the photographers, I'm connected with them. I basically sort of push their articles all around my social media channels as well, just to actually bring more light into the fact that, these articles are well researched and they have facts along with them. So, it's not just simply saying things for the heck of it. It's with proof. So I'm hoping that with all these efforts, people kind of open eyes and try and do something from their part to sort of protect our earth. Even if it is as simple as taking care of your surroundings. Like, if you have a house, if you have a like, for example, in a place like Dubai, you'd probably end up in an apartment. If you can do a little bit of gardening in the balconies, and you leave some water for the birds and things like that, you can sort of do to indirectly help things along. So that's something that you can do. So any sort of measure any sort of action that my pictures can bring forth. I'm totally open. I don't say that my pictures for this or that. But the idea is it is out there so that people can see the beauty of nature. And I make a lot of effort to try and capture a unique moment, because I don't want to be taking the same sort of picture again and again. I try and find that special bird, or I try and find a special moment which can sort of move people. So this is what I try to do with the, and I mean, of course, it lets me grow my audience, and of course, these pictures get sent out to more people as well. More people see it. So this is the answer to the first part. Now, when it comes to the second part, I kind of touched what you can do with me telling you, like, you can have a garden and all that. But when it comes to wildlife photography and you're starting off as a fresher, the first thing I'd do is I mean, it's easy for me to say, but I'd not be worried too much about the gear, and I'd not be worried too much to compare my picture with maybe the best photographers. I don't say it's a bad thing to do, but people like me, I've spent a lot of time, I've spent a lot of money as well investing in a gear, because I knew that this is what I wanted to do, and it was, the investment was worth it, and for me, it made justification that I could pick it up. Now, in your case, you're starting it off, you're trying to figure out if this is what you want. Then I'd not spend all the way and get the best gear possible. I'd get something that works for you, works for your budget. What I would urge you to do more is to sort of go to parks, go to lakes, and go to farms, which are probably near to you, and try and see nature as it is. Once you start seeing nature, and if you love being where you are, I think then it tells you that that's the place you need to go more. So if it is the weekend, you have your busy week schedule, finish it off. Weekends, spend in nature. Take your family along, take your kids along. Let them see what nature is all about. I make it a practice to take my little one to the parks, and I try and I make my earnest effort to sort of teach her all the bird species and stuff like that. It's a little too early for her, but there's no age, to be honest. You can start at a very young age, and she sort of identifies different birds now.
I mean, somebody was mentioning that before you pick up a camera, you should pick up a binoculars and start watching the
100%. I mean, even if you don't have binoculars, if you can take a walk, try and observe the birds, listen to the sounds, try and understand which bird it is, or you try and see what they're doing, the birds are doing. It is definitely very intriguing. It's just that you need to make space, and you have to have an open mind. When you're going to the park, don't think about the work. You have to give that time to nature. And if you wish to like meditate, that's something that you can do as well. Sit down, meditate, listen to the sounds of nature. There's nothing more relaxing than that. You can listen to music, but the sounds of nature is even more relaxing, in my opinion. So this is what I suggest people do. Like take your family along, make it a group thing. And then one important thing, of course, is when you return, you clean up after yourselves. Do not leave litter behind, and make sure that the place is as it is. So this is something that you have to take care overall. We have to ensure that the waste goes to the right place. And when it comes to like a picnic spot or nature reserve, you have to make sure that the wildlife is also not bothered by the things that you do there. So this is another thing that you have to take care of as well. Now, when it comes to photography, as I said, I'll just quickly summarize. Pick any gear, it doesn't matter. Spend more time with wildlife. Try and understand wildlife more and the behavior, and learn about them, read about them. Ping people like me, no problem. Message me and ask me about these things, or how you should go about taking pictures. I have a lot of people asking me things, and I kind of help them out. I have no problem at all, and in fact, I would reply to most people. So that's something that you can do. And then, of course, when you take a good picture with pride, post it on your social media, share that. Now, there's no point keeping it somewhere. Show it to other people what you've done. Take a picture, put it on social media. It's already there for you. It's free of charge. Make use of it, and then be happy and proud of what you're doing. And then, basically, when you do it, and this is from my experience, what I've realized is when you do it, people around you are influenced by it. Now, when I started bird photography and stuff, when I go to my native place, I realized that people around my native place were not observing birds. They started observing birds. In the same way, and they'd call me every now and then, they'd message me and say, you know what, I saw this bird. It has yellow, it has green, it has, all sorts. And then they end up making me guess which bird it is. And so things like this happen. And I think, personally speaking, that has made people around me also aware of nature more. So this is what we need to do by ourselves. Everyone make each other aware of nature, and maybe make some way of protecting nature, that through photography, through love of nature, and through all of these activities.
Great, Akhil. I mean, it was really a passion, energy combined with your commitment to keep our world a greener place. Also, I mean, your willingness to help youngsters coming up, the young wildlife enthusiasts who are coming up to this
Of course.
domain of photography. Thanks a lot. It's been a really wonderful about half an hour, 40 minutes. Thanks a lot, and wishing you all the very best. Uh, Hope to see you much more as we move along. Thank you.
Thank you so much, AB. I mean, I'd like to appreciate you taking the time. I know we tried to schedule this much sooner. I'm so happy that we managed to do it eventually, and I'm so happy to talk to you as well. And I look forward to seeing all the other photographers that come through your channel as well. I've already seen the videos from people who've come on your channel, so I look forward to seeing more of them.
Thank you.
All the best to you too.
Thank you.